So we have a very expensive government. Today, Jeff, we are paying 80 billion per month at the national government level for salaries. So per year, it's 960 billion shillings. It's going to 1 trillion. And we are collecting 2.5 trillion. And we are spending on loan repayment about 1.1 trillion. So where do you get money for development? And that is why sometimes our economy is sluggish. We are just lucky somehow that we have some development partners who pump in some money, some which are in grants, and so help us to grow. But otherwise, this government, there must be a conversation. There was a time, I remember, I've been a member of the Budget and Appropriations Committee in the National Assembly for 15 years. And I remember during the time of Mutava Musyimi, I filed a question to my committee in the National Assembly asking for the costing of the current government. And remember, Edward Ouko, the former Auditor General, led the team which piled a report, a very detailed report to Parliament. How I wish we could pick that report again. And the Kenyans have a conversation on whether we need this kind of government that we have.
The thing you're working on, I'm sure, is taxes, which a lot of Kenyans don't like to hear.
Yes.
They hate the word taxes. And you were at Jivanji Gardens the other day, and he said there will be no new taxes.
You see, Jeff, no one has ever lived taxes. I think even, remember, the tax collectors were not loved even during, in the biblical times of Jesus Christ.
Yes.
So tax collectors were considered, in fact, the most sinful. I hope I'm not being viewed like that. But you see,
there's a name that keeps being floated around, the tax collector, but you know.
Yeah. And I'm the deputy.
You're the deputy.
Yes, so now, Jeff, what I said is this, and I want to repeat it here. My orientation, my professional understanding is higher taxes does not bring prosperity. I know that when Kenya Kwanza government came into office in 2022, August, there were a lot of challenges. Jeff, you are coming into an office with a budget deficit of 8.3%. You're coming into an office with budget deficit of 952 billion, almost 1 trillion. And you're coming into an office with a lot of debts, commercial ones, maturing in 2024, in 2025, in 2026, in 2027, in 2028. You only have luxury in 2029 and 2030. You have syndicated loans to pay, and I will come back to that. The temptation is to get as much money as possible from the citizen to help you come out of the hole. And I think that is a strategy which was adopted. And by the way, I want Kenyans to understand that the program that was entered into between Kenya, our government, and IMF was a program of revenue mobilization. It was a program of sustaining debt through revenue mobilization. Now, that therefore, the strategy was to increase the taxes. But look, first, it almost brought civil unrest. 2, it ends up distorting the economy, and it becomes counterproductive. Therefore, we came up with a tax policy, which has been passed by Parliament. And this tax policy talks about tax predictability and certainty. That is very key for economic growth, economic progress, and economic development. So what we are working on now in terms of fiscal consolidation and revenue mobilization. So you can succeed in fiscal consolidation only through revenue mobilization. But we are changing focus from increasing taxes to expanding the tax base and improving tax management, making it more efficient. The tax administration and tax management. By bringing in systems and giving the revenue collector, the KRA, to have systems that would help us in tax visibility. Because the biggest challenge we have as a country is tax visibility. That there are so many Kenyans out there, Jeff, who are very capable to pay taxes, but because they are not visible, they are not paying taxes. I will give you an example.
Yeah.
Rental income tax, we are only collecting 17% of what we should collect because we haven't been able to have clear visibility of that tax. There is the personal.
That's the 10% supposed to be.
17% of what we should be collecting is what we are collecting. And that, so we can collect about 70 billion or more shillings from just rental income tax. Yes, it is. But it is within our fiscal format and projection going forward. Remember, Jeff, the best way to manage debts is to consistently reduce a budget deficit to GDP. GDP is the indicator of the ability of a country to pay. There are other fundamentals that also inform the ability of a country, or debt sustainability, if you like. One of them is the growth in GDP. If the economy is growing, like our economy is projected to grow at 5.3%, up from 4.6%. Last year, remember 2023, our economy grew at 5.3%, yeah. 5.6%. But then it came down now to 4.6 because of the events of last year. Now we are projecting a growth of 5.3 and then 5.4 in the following years and in the medium term. Now that is one. Number two is how your exports are performing, and that will be is coupled by what is the budget balance of payments? How is it behaving? Are we seeing a positive or a negative one? The other one is the reserves. So there are other factors that inform your debt sustainability. Now, let me concentrate on the budget deficit. On budget deficit, the strategy is not to stop borrowing. There is no country in the world that doesn't borrow. We all have to borrow. All economies borrow. But what you must do is to consistently manage your deficit as a percentage of gross domestic product. Now, if you look at where Kenya has come from, by 2021 or 2020-2021 financial year, our deficit to GDP ratio was 8.3%, completely unsustainable. And that is why we got into the IMF program. The following year, 2021-2022, it came down to 6.2. Now, 2022-2023, it came again down further to 5.6. 2023-2024, last year, it came down from 5.6 to 5.3. Now, this financial year, we were over-ambitious, and you see what it almost cost this country. Now, we became a bit more realistic and projected about 4.6%. Now, finally, we are going to 4.9, which is still way below 5.3. We want to manage the budget deficit to GDP at below 5%. So that, if we realize, and then next financial year, we are working with 4.3%. And the following year, in the medium term, we want to hit 3%. And if you consistently maintain budget deficit at below 3%, then you are on the path to debt sustainability. You are on the path to freeing yourself from debt distress. And that, to me, is the strategy that we are working on.
And then